What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to A Certain Point of View, our Schmoedown related podcast here, where we are giving our point of view on the movie trivia. You know, it's kind of funny. I found a cool little tagline last week for us.
Didn't even get it out.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. It's the movie trivia Schmoedown from a certain point of view. It obviously makes a lot of sense. It's right in the name. I don't know why it took me 17 episodes to figure it out, but we got it. We're hammering it home. For those of you who don't know me and possibly can't see the bottom half of the screen there, my name is Jake Berlin. I'm your host for this show and for the majority of videos here on the channel. And per usual, I have my co-host here today, Mr. Brian Avlicino. How you doing over there on a Sunday night, man? Very excited. Yeah, and Brian is alluding to one specific thing. He is no longer just my only co-host. We have been teasing it this week that we do have a new member joining the squad that we are very, very excited about. But before we get to that member, a little just kind of previewing the week here so far for not just the channel, but the league in general. There's a lot happening. There is a lot happening this week. A lot of matches are coming our way. That is both in the form of IG and Star Wars, and that means a lot of videos from us as well. And IG, because it lives on YouTube, we are going to be doing reactions to those matches, so you will see those on the channel. More than likely, the day after the match releases publicly, that's when most likely they will go up due to editing purposes on our side. We will continue our live breakdowns for the Star Wars matches, and then we are still deciding on whether or not the IG breakdowns will be live or pre-recorded. But you will see updates on that on our Twitter going forward for that. So a lot to happen this week, but we are very excited because obviously for specific reasons, a lot of things took a break last week, and rightfully so. Supporting what is going on and being not just a community in the Schmoedown, but a people in general that reaches far and wide. But we are getting back to it a little bit, and it's very exciting for sure.
Yeah, I'm super excited. If you couldn't tell on Twitter, and
well, let's just get to it. Let's just get to it.
I'm like too anxious to.
Yeah. Talk. So if you've been following us, we've been saying that this said person. She's been a big supporter of the show from the very beginning, and she's been a friend of the show, and they're in constant contact with us about certain things. And you may take a guess, but let's just go ahead and bring her in real quick. Let me pop our names up, change it a little bit. It is the one and only Jill Mansolino. How you doing?
Hello. Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm so honored for being here and having you guys invite me to do this, and so stoked. I'm so excited.
We are very excited. We have mentioned it multiple times how you and Sean both have been really big supporters of us and have followed us, and whether it's Twitter or anything like that. So we really appreciate that. And you and I had talked how it just kind of made sense because of the story of how we met, which has been said multiple times, which is so funny. And so it just kind of made sense on our end. It felt perfect for you to be involved.
It's like a match made in heaven. It's like
exactly.
It all just connects and it all works out, and here we are, and we're gonna make some magic up in here.
Yeah. And I know for the majority of the year it's been Sean via matches and for the Star Wars division and stuff. But now you kind of get to say your piece every week on a show about the Schmoedown.
You get your own voice.
Man. As if I wasn't already a mouthpiece now. Watch out, world.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be really fun. And just to kind of do a little background, just in case people may not know you, is there anything that you can say in a few sentences, or just a quick minute or two about your involvement in the Schmoedown, or how you got involved, or your kind of
So I basically got thrown into it. I'm gonna be honest. I basically got thrown into this. Against my will. I'm just kidding. But no, so Sean introduced me to Schmoedown when we first started dating. So almost 3 years ago now. And he was showing me the Inner Geekdom matches. And then, because I'm a big, huge Harry Potter nerd. And so he was like, oh, they have a Harry Potter slate, trying to find me the matches where they would land on the Harry Potter slate. Like, get really into it, and then would watch us and be like, okay, no, we need to watch another one. We need to watch more. And he would show me then you do the singles and then the teams, and then of course we went to the awards show. It was our first live event show, and then that whole fun situation happened. And a year later, Sean got drafted, and I became his pseudo Star Wars trainer, boss
Master.
arounder. Yeah.
Master, if you will.
Basically. And so I was originally just a casual fan, and then I became into this weird little Schmoedown community and love the competitors, dear friends, a bunch of them, love the community that we've all formed, and now I'm here and I'm so excited.
Yeah,
I'm
we are very
excited that I get to be my own person and I'm not connected to the Saint at the moment. I mean, he's literally in the next room, but like I get to make my own speeches and nonsense. So
yeah, it's fun.
Jake, that's kind of funny because that's almost the same timeline you threw it at me about 3 years ago.
Cheers,
and
Brian.
You threw Inner Geekdom at me, is what you threw at me too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I knew that's your bread and butter, obviously, and you can tell by the background that we have set up for you behind you.
Just a little.
Very, very IG heavy, but yeah, I will say that it took Brian a little while to get involved with it, just because it was a little busy, and I think it was the concept a little bit was for some people it can be a little difficult to understand as far as what they're going for.
Yeah.
But it definitely feels like a very similar timeline, so that is funny. Good call.
Yeah. It's so funny, and it's so funny when you try to explain Schmoedown to people who have like never seen it or like have no idea what you're talking about. I basically, because I took my sister to her first live event and it was free for all. I took her too, and I tried to explain it to her, and I was like, "It's like bar trivia on steroids."
It really is.
And she was like, I'm like, all right, cool. You'll have a good time. So that's just how I describe it to people. It's
true.
Bar trivia on steroids.
It's the perfect way to describe it. It really is.
It really is.
If you say professional movie trivia with a hint of wrestling, people are just like, "What are you talking about?" Bar trivia is definitely more so the way to go.
Yeah, like if you tell me wrestling, I'll be in. But like for some other people, they'd be like, "What?
Yeah,
what are you talking about?"
Exactly.
But they watched it and they're like, "Oh, I love it," and then they get it. So.
All right. Well, we have a lot to talk about today. As we mentioned up top there, there's a lot to be happening here in this week of the Schmoedown, but we also have a few things to be covering from last week that we have yet to talk about on the show. And it's also great to have Jill involved in this too, because she like she has mentioned multiple times, she gets to kind of voice her opinion about these things as well. And so we have a total of 6 matches to discuss. One of them is a recap, which is the Goddard versus Vejvoda match from last week, and the other 5 are previewing, which are happening this week. Which is 3 IG and 2 Star Wars to play catch up. And we're going to try our best to not take too much time on them all. It'll be more so predicting and previewing, but we may get into some good conversations about certain players in those matches. And then we are going to touch on the Robert Myer Burnett thing very, very quickly. It's been said enough in the Schmoedown at this point. We don't need to go into detail about everything that has happened. It's been all over, not just the Schmoedown, social media feeds, but with fans as well. And a lot of people have had plenty of conversations about what had happened. What we are going to discuss is that today, the day we record Sunday, there was a statement released from everyone involved that RMB and RB3 did make up. They had a good conversation. Winston was involved in that. Harloff was involved in that, and John Campia was involved in that. The reason why is because Robert Myer Burnett co-hosts his show with him. And so they all had a good conversation, and they made up, they released statements. You guys can find those all over Twitter. But we're also going to discuss possible step-ins for the Droogs, because at the moment, as far as Schmoedown goes, that's where everything is kind of talked about. That's the conversation that is being had. Who can possibly step in for the Burning Droogs? And so that's where we're going to start right here. Before we get into our matches, there's a lot of names that are being thrown out at the moment. Previous managers, player managers, people who we may not know that someone else may know. I know that we've had conversations on our side a little bit, but just to voice the one name that I've been kind of saying from the beginning, and it's not the majority, but I do think that it would probably be perfect for a Ken Knapsack to take over, just because, one, he's done it before, and 2, being in the Star Wars division, he's not going to be playing that much, especially if he ends up losing in the tournament. And so that kind of seems like the easiest way to do it, but I know that both of you kind of have names as well.
Yeah, for me though, Ken is kind of my quote unquote obvious choice, because he's already on the Droogs. Is he going to be competing in singles? I don't think so.
I don't
think he's just
so.
Star
Wars.
Just Star Wars, yeah.
I think it's a Star Wars. So if he by chance loses his Star Wars match, then it's a perfect step up for him. He could be a manager, and then he can also take himself off of the roster.
Yep.
If the only thing he's doing is Star Wars, if he's taken out of the tournament, he can take himself out of the roster, and he can add another player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So for me, I think Ken is my probably number one choice for the manager. Jay Washington is probably a close number two, because he's already had the managerial experience. But I also don't know if he would want to step away partnering with Winston.
Yeah.
Although they could do some kind of like pseudo alliance between their two factions.
That'd be very interesting.
If they did do that. So I think those are my top two right now, would be either Ken or Jay to take over for the Droogs.
It's funny because, Jake, I think you were the first person to say to me, Ken, and I immediately was like, no. There's just no. Now, the more we've talked about it, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I guess. Like it kind of, yeah, it kind of makes sense. And I mean, the Jay thing is kind of like another obvious one, but like he works so well with Swag, and when he pops up, that like I don't want him to go to a different team. And I don't know. He's involved, but he hasn't really like been at much of it or a part of much of it. But I don't know. I'm not there with him, so I don't know what's going on. But the Ken is, it's funny because like I was trying to think of like people from like way back, like and that might pop up. And I told you right at the end, Hal, just to throw out a name, just because maybe that's because he's one of the ones I like. So I just picked it. But
that would definitely be random.
And it would be kind of funny to see someone random like him take, just because that team is so random in the first place.
It is, and it's very difficult to find someone to step in that put it together like an RMB, right? He kind of he was such an oddball as far as a manager goes in general, so you kind of have to find someone to step in who is an oddball themselves. And Ken kind of fits that mold a little bit. But I wanted to throw a hypothetical out there for you guys because it's something that's been talked about, obviously, with fans, because she is involved with someone else in another faction, and that is Rachel Cushing. We know that Rachel Cushing at the moment is not going to be coming back to play it for at least the remainder of the year, for the foreseeable future. We know that she's getting her time in with the usual suspects and Sam. I personally could never see her leaving, obviously, because it makes sense for them to be together, but if she was to ever get her feet wet as a manager, the time really never is more perfect than now.
Yeah. That's a valid statement too. And I would really love to see another female manager, like some more female managers in there. So seeing Rachel would be amazing. But I don't know. I think she's happy where she's at, like being.
I think so too.
Sam's like I don't know what the title, what her title would be, like co-manager, like
pretty much.
I think she's happy where she's at. I don't want to speak for her, but I feel like she's really content with where she's at. But I would also really love to see her be like a full-on manager.
She would be a dope manager. But I agree. I think she has more of a hand in Usual Suspects than people give her credit for, but not in a bad way. I mean, if anything, that only helps them. But I don't see not just because. No, I was just saying just because that's her fiance, but just because that team works well.
Best for her. It works best for her to be involved there.
Yeah, and you also need someone who is gonna be that heel, and I think she said on record that she doesn't like doing that. So you really need someone who's good, because you can't. The Droogs have to be a heel like team. Like you can't not like you can't. So you need someone who would definitely go into that heel mindset. Which for me, I think Knapsack is just the perfect one who could. He
is. He played it up with that video, and that just happened a few weeks ago, and it kind of worked out perfectly. Obviously, we didn't ever see this coming, but it seems like at this point in time, someone like a Ken and a Jay Washington are probably the top 2 leading contenders here to take over the team. It's going to be interesting, though. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Yeah, I mean, and that's something that we get. Like the Knights of Ken were something of old for Schmoedown, and if they end up changing the name, who knows if that's what they go with? But Brian Ward would have to make up some more cool artwork at that point.
And you could get some really cool promos with Ken and Grace too.
Yeah, that would be really cool. That would be really cool. That household would definitely be crazy. Well, cool. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up our RMB conversation there with the Burning Droogs, and we're gonna, because we have so many matches to talk about today, let's just get right into it, guys. I
want to say before we put a nail in this coffin, I love how adult this whole situation was handled. Like,
good point.
This is literally the most. Obviously, it didn't start out, but the way it ended was the most mature adult thing I feel like I have seen handled in. I can't even remember. Like, this is how things need to be handled. You need to sit down. You need to talk. You need to have a conversation, and things get put to rest. We can now put this to rest and move on. It was anyone that had a hand in this, bravo, because it was done the most mature way I've seen something handled in a long time.
Yep, agreed.
And I will say this, for those who may have came after those involved at like the second this all started about, why did you make the rash decision? Harloff, you can tell Harloff knows what he's doing as far as getting the facts straight, calling people, sitting down with people. And like you had said, Brian, every single person who was involved, not just RB3 and RMB, every single person who was involved was adult about it. And it's just a testament to the community and those leading us in that direction. And it is really, really good to see from a fan perspective. So I definitely, great job bringing that up, Brian.
Hats off to everybody.
Yes. All right. So let's go ahead and get into this. So we have Mr. Ben Goddard for the Den versus Jim Vejvoda for the Rockstars here. An IG match, play-in match that wasn't, highly anticipated. So good promos from both of them leading up to it. I could say from our perspective, and we had mentioned it on our breakdown last week, that we expected Goddard to win this match. But because, Jill, you haven't talked about it too much here, we wanted to get your perspective on this match and how Goddard played, being that Sean is in the Den with him.
I know some bias there. So
yeah, definitely. But I mean, just from a perspective of watching the match and checking out how he did, what did you think of Goddard versus Vejvoda?
I think Ben is definitely showing that he belongs in this league. He wasn't just put in there as the face of, quote unquote, face of SEN. He's showing his knowledge. He's showing his stuff. He knows inner geekdom. He belongs in this league. He's 4 for 4. He's won all of his matches that he's been in. Like, it's insane. And he held himself really well. But Jim also surprised me because he knew how to play the game, which for someone who he didn't really play last year. Really. So for someone who isn't constantly in the game, he really played it. And I've talked to others about this, is when it comes to these tournaments, it's gonna come down to gameplay. You can know the knowledge, but if you don't know the gameplay, it's gonna really bite you. And so seeing that both of them knew the gameplay, and also that both of them landed on opponent's choice was also kind of fun. I really love when, I don't know if it's like the cynic, I really like when both the players go into opponent's choice, because it's like, let's see how good at this you are. Let's see if you can prove yourself, which I thought they both really did. They didn't know it. They went to multiple choice. It did scare me when Vejvoda got that steal, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But
we were texting each other going, oh crap.
Well, especially with such a category like scores and soundtracks, you don't know what's coming. And it being the first question of the round, it definitely puts a little bit of a thinker in there.
And that's definitely I think anybody will just straight up tell you the two hardest categories are who said it and scores and soundtracks. And so for him to I was like, oh no. But I mean, he held his own and he got the TKO out of it. So, and he's definitely proving himself in this league, and Schmoedown as this. would not be surprised if he ends up with a belt at some point. Would not be surprised.
Yeah, he's no longer the Beggar Boy.
Sure.
He's officially
No.
shedded that name, and he's for sure someone who a lot of people are looking forward to. Yeah, the Bandit for sure. He's stealing people's hearts left and right. Taking names.
You almost made water come out of my nose.
Yeah, so Ben ends up taking the TKO, and he puts the Den right back where they want to be. Swag last week with their Star Wars match or 2 weeks ago, ended up putting themselves into second place, right behind the Finstock Exchange, but the Den just overtook them again, being 1 point above Swag and right behind the Finstock Exchange, the closest anybody has been to this point in the Finstock Exchange. That could all change this week with Dimolanta playing the Star Wars match, and a couple other matches that are going on as well. Barbarian has a match coming up this week as well, so that could affect that too. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, we talked about it in our breakdown. Goddard versus Parker. Real quick, Jill. I mean, big match.
That's going to be a match, and
it feels like it's going to be a bloodbath, right?
It has to be. It totally has to be. And then what the thing is, though, I feel like the pressure is really on Parker with this because he's the number 2 draft pick. He's like the one that everyone's looking out for, and this is also the only division that he's in. So if he doesn't, because if Goddard, if he doesn't win, he does still have singles and teamals and singles and teams. But if Parker doesn't and if Parker doesn't win this, I don't know if he's out for the season. Like, I don't know.
He'd be done for the rest of the year at this point. Yeah,
exactly. He would. because with everything going on, I don't know if there's going to be. I don't know. So if he doesn't win, he could potentially be out. So the pressure is definitely on Parker for this. And then if Ben takes it,
holy guacamole!
If Ben takes it, then he's already on that upper tier. I feel like for me, but if he beats Parker, it just hello to the Rookie of the Year award.
And that point, and it's nothing against the other people on the other side of his bracket, or on his side of the bracket, I should say, but his road would only get easier, right? The next match he would play is either Chance or Paul Oyama, and then he would either get someone like a Lavic or Barbarian, or Janine, someone like that.
We haven't really seen how any of those players really compete
exactly,
in AG, so that's also kind of a mystery too. But Parker has the name for himself. He beat Kevin Smets, so that in itself is so much, and so which I feel like could also make it easier for Ben because Ben doesn't have that pressure.
Yep,
Brian made that point last week.
So that could make things definitely. It's definitely beneficial for him to not have that pressure, but that also makes Robert's more hungry because he knows that if he doesn't take this, it's essentially game over.
The underdogs are always the scariest. They're always the scariest. They have nothing to lose. They have nothing to lose.
Nope. Totally. And Ben has nothing to lose with this, and Parker has everything.
Ben's already proven himself, and Parker continuously has to prove himself and live up to that golden boy standard that everyone has kind of touted him as. So it's going to be fun. Exactly. It's going to be very, very fun to see what happens with that match. It's going to be so good.
Such a fun match.
I think it's going to be a lot of this.
Oh, 100%. They're both great at it. They're both great at it for sure. And it's Kaiser versus Kate too.
Kaiser and Kate, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's perfect. Perfect.
It's going to be great. Good. I'm so excited.
So good.
Promos are going to be amazing.
So on the opposite side of the bracket, the other play-in match for IG, which is coming up this week, one of the first ones we'll see is Greg Alba versus Warfather. So the Quirky Mercs versus the Burning Droogs.
The Quirky we never see that.
I know, right? Yeah, seriously. I want to see more of them because they're the team that I kind of I rode with for the whole year. I
know. Sean is also he loves the Quirky.
Yeah,
he loves the Quirky Mercs. So.
Yeah, they're such a fun team to watch.
They are fun.
We get half of the real rejects here. We know the love that Greg Alba has for certain properties. Have not seen him in the IG realm yet, so it's a debut for him. Warfather has played once before, but he seems like a much different player this time around. I have a hard time going back and forth on this one as far as who's going to win, just because I haven't seen enough of either of them to kind of really make a definitive decision. And so I'll for the hell of it, I'll pick Alba because I went with the Mercs all year long, but it really could be. It's really a toss-up in my opinion.
I'm definitely right there with you. I don't know if I really have a favorite in this. I both think they can take it. I really think it depends on it'll come down to the wheel on this one. If Alba spins a slice that he's great at, and if Warfather, I think it's really going to come down to the wheel and what categories they have to answer. But I don't know if I'll be able to pick until right up to the match, to be honest.
I agree.
I am going to actually go with Warfather. I think
you've been talking about this guy. You have been talking about this guy, man.
He is like, I feel like he's another scary barbarian where you don't really like know what he has, and then when he shows up, you're like, holy crap! Yeah, you're like, that's literally, you're like, oh crap, where did he come from?
That's a true Viking right there.
Yeah, and I'm surprised you picked against the Viking.
Yeah, I usually never go against Vikings, but I haven't really seen his Viking on display yet.
Yeah, so he is someone that I've kind of like had a curious eye on, just because I kind of like, I feel like you might have something and you might get overlooked. I mean, like he almost kind of like gets the rep as the like, oh, he's the second barbarian. But if you're the but if you're the second barbarian, get the hell out of the way.
I would take that as a compliment.
That's called a little chip on the shoulder too, which is very scary.
So I mean, if you're getting compared to the barbarian, who to me is terrifyingly good, then you are not someone to be slept on. So I mean, I think he might come out and this might be the one where he makes the name, and then people are like, okay, we need to take him seriously. So
that's
that would be very bad for the Quirky Mercs, because they need the points. They really, really, really need the points, and these points in these tournaments are very crucial for them, because you can get 2, 3, possibly 4 points sometimes. So it can really, like we saw what happened with Corruption when Laura won last week in Star Wars. It just shot them right back up the standings. Like they were now just included right back in the standings after being at the bottom all year long. So
same with Parker in the dungeon when they won that one, and it made us realize, okay, they actually aren't really out of it.
3 points at a time are huge. Like, I mean, it's really important at this point. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, the Droogs is right there in the middle. 3 points could be massive to them, but it's really much more important for the Mercs at this point. And Coy just needs it. And I think that's why he threw his guys in there, Greg Alba and John Humphrey, just because they're the guys we've seen the most from them all year long, and they've kind of been doing well. And so it makes sense to put them in this and see what they can do. And even if he gets a couple points from a play-in match, they're still right back in the swing of things.
Yeah.
At this point, any sort of points can change this game.
Absolutely.
Like because we don't know, the people in the top could stop getting points, and so the teams that are at the bottom right now can just. You saw it with Corruption. I think they're now they were at the bottom. Now they're like 5th.
Yeah, 5th or 6th, somewhere around there. Yeah,
they jumped up like 3 or 4 ranks just from one match.
Yeah,
like it's insane.
That's what's scary about those two teams specifically, because Corruption and Dungeon have the two tournaments. They're pretty much stacked with players, and they could be at the top just as easily as anybody else. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Yeah. The next match here on the schedule, someone that we have talked about so far, just recently, we have the Barbarian, who is in his first IG match. A guy who at this point seems like he's good in everything that he does. For the Finstock Exchange, playing Adam Lavick and Swag. Neither team really need the points at this point. They're three of the top teams who have just kind of been rallying all year long, just getting those points. It really is a toss-up. You have a newcomer who seems to be this fresh blood, who's bringing something very different to the game, and just seems to have a plethora of knowledge in everything. And then you have Adam Lavick, who has always seemed to be an IG guy who knows what he's doing, but just can never get there. But an IG tournament can really catapult him into something different as an IG player. Just for the sake of it, because he's the guy that's been talked about so much, I'm going to take the Barbarian in this match. But I would be very happy if I did see Lavick win, because he's a guy that I really do want to see win. Like I feel like he just kind of needs to get over that hump a little bit, but I feel like the Barbarian might be a little too much for him.
Yeah, I don't want Barbarian to win just because I don't want Finstock Exchange to have any more points.
Yeah.
Gonna be real on that one. But Craig is just such a beast. Like, and people seem to forget about him, but he's also a really good contender for Rookie because he's a beast in singles. And if he can pull out this IG match, he's up there. I feel like he could be up there with Ben in terms of who the Rookie of the Year could be.
I think the 3 Rookie of the Years come out of this tournament, right? Barbarian, Parker, or Goddard.
Probably.
Those are definitely my top 3.
Those are probably the 3 that are really contending with each other right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you've been saying that the Rookie of the Year is coming out of Intergeekdom.
I really do think that whoever goes farther in this tournament is probably going to be the Rookie of the Year. That's what it feels like.
I can definitely agree with that. I'm probably on that same page too. Is whoever.
Yeah.
But it's also how far you go. Yeah, and it really could come down to this tournament. But for this match, I really don't want Finstock Exchange to take any more. But
same here.
I'm taking Craig on this one.
So Brian, real quick before you get to yours, it's going to be interesting this week because Swag and the Den are nipping at the heels of Finstock Exchange, but the Finstock Exchange could walk away with 6, 7, 8 points by the end of the week and be right back a giant gap if Demolanta wins and if Craig wins. They could gap the league again by the end of the week if they end up winning those 2 matches.
If you saw me looking off screen, I was writing down team wise who has matches, and Corky Mercs, Burning Drews, and Finstock Exchange each have 2 matches this week. So I mean, you could and then you have Swag, Dungeon, Usual Suspects, and Den having a match too. So I mean, you look at Corky Mercs or Burning Droogs, they could jump. They can absolutely jump. Finstock Exchange could absolutely jump. I mean, if Finstock Exchange falls flat on their face and Saul wins, we could have a new first place team. Same with Adam Lavick. If he wins, we could have another new first place team. So the standings right now are going to be so different.
This is what we've been wanting all year long. This is what we've been talking about. And COVID kind of put a halt to that, right? And we weren't getting the frequent matches that we were getting. This is exactly what the sports aspect that Harloff was going for with the draft, with the factions, of the shakeup of points like this, and doing the tournaments where a team like Corruption or a team like the Mercs could easily get their opportunity to jump a spot, 2, 3, 4 spots, or have a 3-head race at the top where they're literally just flip-flopping for the next few weeks of all these matches. Like this is why these tournaments are so exciting, because of this exact reason.
Yeah. I mean, Corky Mercs, I'm looking at it right now. They get 6 points this week. They're in 4th place and they're in last right now.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So it's that much of a craziness that could happen this week, or we could see Finstock going up to 22 points.
We don't want to talk about it.
Exactly. So I mean,
don't put it in
I know, right? Bring it back in. But Jake, you're 100% right, and this is what we've been waiting for with
We've been talking about it for so long.
Yes, the competitiveness of the standings. I mean, Finstock Exchange has not moved out of first since the beginning. It's second and third that have been the ones that people are watching to fight over. By the end of this week, this whole entire standings is going to be completely different than what it was.
And with that conversation too, it makes me wonder how, completely kind of in a different universe over here, is I'm wondering how this is all going to change with draft picks next year. Yeah. As if people are going to focus more on like the inner geekdom or the Star Wars, because you're seeing how much these teams are jumping off of one Star Wars match, one inner geekdom match. So it kind of makes me wonder if that's going to really change how people are going to draft now.
Absolutely.
Brian, are you looking at the standings right now, Brian?
I have, yeah. Why?
So correct me if I'm wrong, do the Rockstars have 4 points?
The Rockstars have 6 points.
Okay, so they would have 2 points if they didn't have an IG match with Alex Damon. That's what they would be at right now. She drafted Alex Damon third.
That's right.
IG match, right? That's how crucial it was. And then we talked about it multiple times on this show specifically. Look what Kaiser did. He drafted Smets, but then he drafted Parker second. And it's paying off because even if they play each other, you're going to walk away with points. And Parker could run through this tournament too. Like,
he could essentially be in first or second place just with Parker and Smets.
Same with Corruption and Chance and Kalinowski. Like
Chance and Kalinowski.
And Laura in the Star Wars division. And
Laura in the Star Wars division. Just those 3 players can bump that entire team from basically last and take first in a span of weeks. Just for
these
those
leagues.
3.
I think I said it early on this year. I said it. Star Wars and Intergeekdom are the Achilles heel of the Schmoedown. They are the Achilles heel of the Schmoedown, specifically in 2020 because of this points, because of the way that it's shaped out. And the tournaments made that even more so because of how many points you could walk away with after these tournaments are all said and done.
Yeah, I mean, we were saying...
go for it. For whoever wins in the Intergeekdom tournament, how many points could they get?
The possible, I think, is 12.
So is it 2 points for a win or 3 points for a win?
3. Intergeekdom is 3.
Yeah, so if say Parker won, say he won out, he'd walk away with 12 points.
That's nuts, right? Right, and then a TKO or a KO is 4.
Yeah, TKO would be 4, so he would walk away with 16 points.
You
if
could
TKO'd everybody.
For one player, whoever wins that tournament, if you TKO everybody, you can walk away with 16 points.
And think about this. That's exactly what the FinStock Exchange has for points total right now.
That's nuts. Off of one tournament. So that's what I'm saying is that these tournaments can completely change the entire like Schmoedown can change the entire league of how people pick their teams now.
And it's so fun. It's so fun.
I love it.
It's just so funny because I remember we at the beginning of the year, everyone, ourselves included, we're like, what was Kaiser doing in the draft?
I thought that.
And now it's like
death, and I went, dude, what are you doing?
And now he's sitting there going,
he's sitting in the back going,
Well, and you can also, and we didn't talk about it, but because Kaiser was more so in the front and center, but Shannon kind of did the same thing. She drafted Kalinowski and Chance first and second, but then she took Laura Kelly, and she has 2 IG and Star Wars players in the first 3 rounds of the draft. She did the same thing as Kaiser. It just was not talked about. And Kaiser and Shannon right now are sitting the best out of anybody in this league. Plain and simple. It's very scary because they were at the bottom of the standings before all this started.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. Because her and Kaiser are literally sitting in almost like the exact same position. Because Corruption's team in tournaments right now is Chance, Kalinowski, and Laura Kelly.
And we saw what Laura did in the first match, right? She played both her and Sean played well, but I mean, she looked like a different player. She just looked like a different player.
She embraced the dark side.
Yeah, and then we know. I mean, whatever, guys, you dark users. And then, and then obviously we know what Kalinowski is capable of as an IG player. He's not ever like it. Just like with Kalinowski. Chance is someone that could walk away with a couple points. He could really surprise some people because that guy, honestly, at times really does look like a barbarian-esque person where he doesn't look like it looks like he knows everything sometimes.
And he's being trained by Kalinowski.
Exactly. Oh man. Oof.
This week is going to be insane.
It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy.
Just look at all crazy.
Yes. Yes. Oh my God, it's going to be crazy. So the next match on the list, as we're going to step away from IG for just a second here, and we have the 2 Star Wars matches, which will be airing live on Wednesday, back to back. We have a doubleheader. The first one is the canceled match from last week, which is Andrew Dimolanta and Joseph Scrimshaw. And the second one is Molly Damon versus Adam Witt. Let's go and talk Dimolanta Scrimshaw here, because this is a conversation that 3 of us have had about it. It really comes down to some specific things for each player. First of all, Dimolanta, we know how involved he is. He has the show Beyond the Schmoedown. He shoots every week. He has guests on. He does reactions with his wife. Him and Nikki just kill it over there on their channel. And they're involved on a day-to-day basis. We see that through Twitter, through their show, everything. Scrimshaw, on the other hand, he's essentially MIA, but he does a Star Wars podcast, and they're very two different types of players. Whereas Dimolanta is all about the studying, right? He's all about the studying and the focusing. Whereas Scrimshaw, he looks like a guy that essentially just knows his stuff, and he rides or dies with it. And so it's really going to come down to, I think the second round could be a big factor with the wheel, depending on where it goes. But for me, it might come down to gameplay for Scrimshaw, because I do want Scrimshaw to win. I'm picking him to win, but it really does feel like he may not have the gameplay down like Dimolanta does, just because he hasn't been involved in it as much as, or as far as we see anyway. I'll say that. But I could say I'm safe saying that I really do think that it could be a Lord of the Rings-esque type match where it goes 4, 5, 6, 12, 15 questions in overtime because they're so good at Star Wars.
If there's going to be a Star Wars match that goes into overtime, double overtime, triple overtime, this is going to be the one that's going to do it.
Absolutely.
Scrimshaw's basically just a walking Star Wars encyclopedia, and then Demolanta's hungry. Demolanta needs this win because he hasn't had a win, and he's
0-2, right? Yeah,
he's 0-2, and he has the capability to take the win. We all know he has the capability to take a win, but if he loses this, he's 0-3. I don't know if you can come back from that. And that's what's terrible, because he's so good. I know his study tactics. I know what he's doing every day. I know how he studies. It's scary how he studies. I believe it. It's insane. And so when people just discredit him because he hasn't had a win, I go, you don't understand.
You're an idiot.
Exactly. So I'm 100% Demolanta on this. I think, although on the flip side, I think all that studying could also maybe hurt him, because if you maybe get that one question you just had to not write down, and then you just so I don't know. It's gonna come down to one question. It's gonna be. Yep. I would not be surprised if this doesn't go to double overtime. But
one simple mistake could end up ruining the game for one of them.
It could be a 729-1 or whatever his first match is in. Just that one, or a Ratzenberger, and then that could just be done.
I've said it from the beginning. I think what's going to happen is whoever goes first in the second round, one of them's going to go to multiple choice. Getting that one instead of two is going to be the thing that wins the whole entire thing.
I don't see either of them going to multiple choice.
Yeah, that's very much true.
They're both so good, but they could also it's again that gameplay where if you're not sure you know it, you don't want to wrongly guess, and then that other person is 99.9% going to know that question and then steals 2 points from you.
Yep.
Can you imagine the poor writers that have to figure out questions to hope that they get one wrong so the match ends?
Yeah.
God.
I stress so. I'm like, what questions do I need to write to stump Andrew Demolanta and Joseph Scrimshaw?
Right? We need to make a question where someone misses.
Stars? It's like, how many individual stars when you pause the movie at 52 minutes?
It's very similar, and it was just an exhibition match, but it's like the Lord of the Rings match with Damon and Parker.
Colors in the background.
20 plus rounds into overtime, and it just happened to be the question they both ended up missing was colors of flags in the background, and it's something like that that's going to stump someone if they get that type of question. But I really do see it being this match where it's fist fight, punch the jaw, back and forth the entire time.
In my opinion, this should be a final.
It does feel that way. When the bracket came out, you could tell it was like that was the one match everybody had their eye on. Is like, wow, they're playing each other the first round.
It's insane.
It's one of the most even matches I feel like I've seen in a long time.
Me too.
Like in anything.
I'm so excited to watch it. It's gonna be.
And we're not going to have time to decompress because there's a match right after that.
Shortly, because we're not even going to have time to.
Yes, and it's just as good of a match because Mr. Adam Witt for the Dungeon, who is one of the most likable and fun and entertaining guys in this league in general, is coming in after his match with Sean earlier this year, after pulling that incredible 5-pointer that he pulled, and he's showing that he does have the Star Wars knowledge. And he's taking on Molly Damon, who obviously was the talk of free agency when it happened a few weeks ago, landing with Sam Levine and the Suspects, who desperately need points at this point. We were talking about Quirky Mercs and people like the Droogs, but the Suspects need as many points as possible at this point as well. And so this could really help them. I kind of, it's very similar. I do go back and forth on this one a little bit. I feel like in a way that it goes to Adam Witt just a little bit because like the Demolanta Scrimshaw thing, he's been playing the game. I know that Molly has been involved in the game with Alex, but when you're playing it, it's much more than just being involved in it. And that may get to her. I don't know. But I do feel like Adam Witt might walk away with it, and it's going to be very, very small margin, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm right there with you, but I think Adam has a much deeper, like, in-depth knowledge because he grew up with Star Wars.
Yeah.
So he knows random characters that aren't in the movies. He knows he knows so much. But on terms with Molly, I know firsthand what it's like to see your partner study for Star Wars, and you help them study, and you pick up Star Wars knowledge, and
I'm sure you have learned so much the last year just by Sean playing.
Oh my gosh, it's insane. I've learned so much. Like if you asked me a year ago, I was playing the Ace match, I would have gotten maybe one question, but then I got like 85% right, and I'm like, whoa,
that's crazy.
That's awesome.
I knew needles, and I was very excited that I knew that 5-pointer. Sean was like, you knew needles, and I'm like, yeah, he literally says it out loud. He's like, my friend Needles taught me this, and then he died. Like it's literally in there. But because I know that firsthand, I know that she is picking up everything that Alice is doing.
Yeah.
So. Again, though, this is going to be... I'm so excited for this match just because it's going to be so much fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree. They're both very entertaining.
Exactly. I love Adam. It's going to be one of those just... The Scrimshaw Demolanta match is going to be stressful as heck because there's just going to be boom, boom, boom. This one is just going to be... Because this one's just going to be so much fun, and I'm kind of glad it's the second one because that gives us time to, like...
Yes.
Kind of, like, heal us from the stress of, like,
yes.
match. So I'm very excited. This one, I don't know who to pick. I'm gonna pick Adam on this one. I think I am gonna go with Adam just because I know what he knows, and I will never forgive him for that 5-point pull because that cost Sean a TKO. But I couldn't even be mad about it because it was such a good pull. So I'm gonna give this to Adam.
I agree. I'm gonna give it to Adam, but it's literally like 55% to 45%. Like
it's like a 51-49 for me. Like I change every day. I change every day because I would really love to see, and I don't know if it'll happen, but I'd really love to see a Molly versus Laura final. I think that'd be so cool. I think that'd be so cool because
been my dream match.
And also after seeing Spectacular last year when they came out wearing each other's shirts during the match, like
so cool.
It's so such a great way to express the sportsmanship of Star Wars and Schmoedown in general. And I know that'd be very similar, Laura playing Molly and not just Alex. And and also it would set up that Laura versus Alex rematch because she just took down his wife. Like,
oh my god,
that would be really cool to see as far as a storyline goes. And so it'd be like it'd be a match made in heaven, really, to see that all happen. But
that would be cool.
Yeah, I really do go back and forth every day, and it sucks because I only have 2 days to really decide on who I want to win. But I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see it happen.
Well, I've said it before. The girls are kind of the names that are being talked about the most in Star Wars right now. Yeah. So like,
amazing.
It's because I mean, in today's dating world, who would have thought the female competitors are the ones you're going to hear the most talk about coming from Star Wars? And
it's insane, and I love it.
I
love it.
As much as I think Wit might win, like, dude, I would pay money to see a Molly versus Laura semifinal
I would gladly fork over money to see a
right.
I will say this. There's a slight part of me that believes that Molly might come out with an absolute haymaker and TKO him. There is a slight part of me that believes this, because whether or not we think that she has the deep pulls that Alex does, we also have to remember that she doesn't just study with him like you do with Sean. She's literally the second half of their Star Wars channel.
Yeah.
They do it on a daily basis. Now, whether or not she holds it like he does is a different story, but she lives and breathes it just as much as he does.
It's true.
And that's something to really be scared about. And
Star Wars knowledge.
Yeah, and could you imagine? Could you imagine her coming out and TKOing Adam Witt? Are you serious? Holy crap!
I can see it. I mean, it's definitely
that'd be wild.
Possibilities. It would be. But also, it's really, especially with now that like the main brackets are set. It's with Star Wars. It's so hard to even see a TKO happening.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it is. It's definitely
really hard seeing it because these players are insane. These players are nuts. The way they go about this league is insane. And like what people say, if you miss one question, you could essentially be done. And that's not the same in any other league, any other division. Like maybe Inner Geekdom, but Star Wars, if you miss one question, that's it.
Yeah,
like
100%.
You could be perfect for the rest of the game, but that one question. So it's really hard to think that there could be a TKO in this, but never say never. So
it'll be interesting.
I'm very excited to see. I'm very excited to see what happens.
It'll be very interesting. Okay, moving on to our final match of the week, and this one is happening on Friday. And this is a very, very exciting / highly anticipated match for more than one reasons. It is two former stablemates facing each other. We have Mr. Brandon Hanna, who is now a Burning Droog, versus Saul for the Den. A match that people have been looking forward to for quite a while, ever since that bracket came out. Obviously, we know where Jill probably stands on this one, but it's hard for me because, and I'm sure Brian feels the same way, because we haven't seen Saul. Obviously, we know that you have probably talked to him and have seen what he's doing on the outside of it. We know that he knows his stuff. I trust Kate in what she says about him as far as what his knowledge is. And so it's hard for me to decide at this point, just for the reason of me not really knowing what Saul knows as an IG player or player in general. I'll go with Hannah, but I'll say this. Hannah is a very, very hard player to go with because he's always so questionable. He's such a questionable player, in my opinion. And it's very hard to always go like, okay, I think he's going to win. I don't ever know if he's going to win. And even though I'm picking him, I still feel like the majority of me feels like Saul's going to somehow win. But just because I have never seen Saul play before and I don't know, I will pick Hannah for that sake. But I will not be shocked in any way if I see Saul walk away with a W and it being by a couple points.
Yeah, Brandon just better not hope he doesn't get a 5-point Star Wars question, because I think he's 0-2.
Yeah, he is.
So, but we all know who I'm going to pick on this.
Yeah.
So Saul, and from my own personal experience, Saul sat with us in Spectacular during the Damon Kelly match and was answering along with Sean. And he got about the same amount of questions right that Sean did.
Wow.
So he knows his stuff. He's not just a dog took the bacon. I
might have to change my pick now.
He knows his stuff. And people are like, Saul, who's Saul? And I can strongly say Saul knows his stuff. On the flip side, when Brandon was still in the den, we also helped with our studying. So I can also say that Brandon knows his stuff clearly, because we've seen him compete, so we know that he knows his stuff. He just needs to brush up on his 5-point Star Wars questions. So
that's fair.
But I think Brandon is in his head, and I think Brandon is too involved with trying to prove everybody wrong, and he's really into that hitman persona, and I think that might get in his head a little bit too much, and I think Saul can use that against him.
Yeah,
so I'm going with Saul on this.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same with you, Jake, but like, because I picked the Den to win the whole thing, the whole year. So part of me is telling me like Hannah's gonna come out hot because he has something to prove, but I completely agree with Jill, but that it could get into his head because he's that type of player where he could get into his head. I know nothing about Saul, and that's where my lack of like being able to choose him comes from. I know nothing other than that little teeny promo that I didn't even know what he looked like until that promo came out. So like,
got that nice beard going.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does.
So I mean, like, I literally, I mean, I feel like I'm picking Hannah just because I know who he is. But at the same time, I'm not confident with his gameplay. So it's like, so then you should probably pick Saul. So I'm like, I honestly just don't know.
Brandon Hanna is the most mental player in the game, and coming from a baseball background, a coach, an athlete, when you get inside your head, you can never get out, and it's very hard to turn that around. I don't know if he is at this point. I don't know if the losing to Chandru a couple times is in his head, or the fact that he was traded and all these things are happening are in his head. But if they are, that will hurt him. That will hurt him in more than just one way, because a lot of athletic stuff that comes over from sports transfers over the Schmoedown, and that is something that will transfer over massively. And so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. You know, I really do think that it's one extreme or the other with him. He's either going to lose, you know, and be done, or he could end up just wrecking shop and facing Kalinowski in the final on that side of the bracket or something. I don't know, but it's definitely the one that I question the most, because I don't have confidence in choosing him at all.
Yeah,
the smack talk is going to be great, though.
It is. The promos are going to be great. The promos are going to be great. So, yeah, that's something we haven't talked about with all 5 of these matches. The smack talk, it really is going to be great on all end, because they're all such different smack talkers, right? I mean, Greg Alba's great with being the funny. Then you have Warfather, who's the Viking style. You have the Barbarian, who just knows what he's doing with Elvis, and Adam Lavick, who's always been a nicer guy, but that can bring the heat if he needs to. Dimalanta's been good at it, obviously. Scrimshaw's much more of a reserved person, but can probably put a dig in there if he needs to. I'm interested to see how Molly Damon does this, because she doesn't seem like a promo type of person, but it could be fun from that end. And then going up against Adam Witt, the back and forth is going to be fun on that one for sure too.
I have another question though too, because Brandon's in the Droogs, so are they going to need a manager by that point? How is that going to work?
From what we have heard is that Robert Myer Burnett has filmed 2 matches for his team, and those will be aired as scheduled. So we will see RMB for the next two matches that he has been on. Yeah. And then from there on out, we'll see someone new. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Makes sense.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, I think that wraps up the show. I think we're right almost on the hour mark. So a lot to talk about, a lot to digest, a lot to preview.
5 matches, goodness.
Yeah, it's going to leave us. It's going to leave us with a lot to talk about next week. But what's funny about it is we feel exhausted right now, but I guarantee you next week when we're all said and done, we're gonna walk away saying, "Man, I could do 5 matches every week."
Yeah. I know.
And that would kill everybody, obviously, but that I guarantee that's how we'll walk away from it.
Absolutely,
it's going to be insane. I'm so excited. It's basically a match a day. We're getting 2 Star Wars matches on Wednesday, which that in itself is nuts.
Yeah,
I cannot wait.
It's going to be
it's going to be crazy. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to have a lot of content covering these matches, guys. As we mentioned up top, for the YouTube videos, the IGs, we're going to do reactions. Some play alongs, so you will see those the day after they are released publicly, and then we'll have our live breakdowns as well, and then the 3 of us will get together next week and break all of these matches down, and we're going to have 5 of them to talk about. And being that there's so many of them, we're not going to try and get every single person on, but maybe we'll try to reach out and get a guest or 2 on to talk about their matches and kind of discuss that a little bit. Maybe one IG and one Star Wars, but we'll see how that goes throughout the week and see who end up winning and everything like that. So make sure you guys are checking out A Certain Point of View on YouTube and everything for these videos. Also, we live on podcast platforms. You can see those right next to Jill, or wrong way. There we go. Right next to Jill, right there, Apple, Spotify, Anchor. You guys can follow us right there on Twitter as well, Schmoedown POV. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Qui-Gon Jake. Brian, where can they find you on social media, man?
B and then my last name.
Avlicino. Yeah, very difficult to say.
Yeah.
Jill, what about you?
I'm on Instagram and Twitter, Jilly Marie, 2 Y's, 2 E's. I'm there talking smack, usually. Not nearly as much anymore.
I will say you are really good at talking the smack. It was in Sean's lead up. It was good.
I make a post and then some manager who I'm not going to name decides to comment on it, and I'm not just going to leave that be. I am going to respond. We had some fun.
Yeah, no, that was definitely good. So again, guys, this is A Certain Point of View. Find us on YouTube, all podcast platforms. This show lives on Mondays, and then various videos throughout the week. So go ahead, do it. Yes, good call.
Very quickly, nothing has really changed other than second place. Finstock Exchange, 16 points. The Den, 15 points in second place. Swag in third place with 12. Burning Droogs in fourth place with 6. Fifth place, Rockstars with 6. Corruption, sixth place with 5. Seventh place is Usual Suspects with 4. The Dungeon is 8th with 4. And the Corky Mercs with 3 points in 9th.
And the standings could be completely flipped on its head by the next time we meet, guys.
Absolutely.
It's going to be fun. So again, this show lives on Mondays. We will see you guys next week. For now, we are A Certain Point of View. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you guys then.